We welcome you to this webinar on Mongolia's business environment, co-organized with the Mongolian National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, MNCCI. Today's webinar will feature three distinguished speakers. The first speaker is Mr. Enkhtuvshin, President of MNCCI. The second speaker is Mr. Duuren, CEO of MNCCI. And the third speaker will be Mr. Dulgun Barsuren, who is officer at the Investment and Trade Agency of Mongolia. Within this audience, this webinar today will be very useful for investors, economists, and business people because the quality of the presentation. We had a look at the presentation, and it's full of statistics and very good data that will help investors and business people to have a better understanding of the market in Mongolia. Now, without further ado, I would like to let the first speaker, Mr. Enkhtuvshin, President of the MNCCI, to start his presentation.
Let me briefly introduce about Mongolian National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, largest representative of business community in the country. So we founded in 1960. We have more than 6,000 members all around the country. So we have 21 provinces. So we have a branch in all 21 provinces. And also we have representatives in 15 countries. On top of the policy advocacy training, we provide several services like issuing a certificate of origin and ATA carnet and the certificate of force majeure, and also we provide intellectual property service and also the inspection service. And we also have an arbitration center under Mongolian National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So our arbitration is well accepted in the country, and also we work closely with the foreign invested companies, and also we accepted in related countries. Let me briefly introduce the Mongolian economy in short. So we have about GDP per capita $5,000. So all these numbers are official, the last available official data. So I think within a month we can have 2023 numbers. As of now, we have a GDP per capita 500, more than 500. So the same as other countries, we also experienced heavy challenges during the COVID time. So our GDP growth percentage is now about 5-6%. So if you take sectors, so mining sector is our key industry. So after mining, agriculture, and the financial and logistics, our key industries. If we take foreign trades, China, obviously, as you know, we are centered in between China and Russia, so a landlocked country. So more than 80% export goes to China. So mostly mining products, including that I will discuss later in details. And also import, we also import a lot of machinery and all the goods import from China, about 1/3, more than 1/3. Our imports comes from China. And also we import fuel, gasoline, and power from Russia. So our main trading partners, obviously, two neighbors. So the China play major role. And if you take the export numbers, as I said before, our economy is the mining sector is very dominant. So about more than 90% of the export is mining products. So it's mostly all commodities like coking coal, iron ore, and also we are exporting copper and gold. And our government is targeting non-mining export, and the Kashmir and agriculture products are our key non-mining export products. So we actually, the Mongolian raw Kashmir, Mongolia is the biggest supplier of gold Kashmir in the world, but our finished product is almost about $500 million US. So it only 3% of our total export. So we have a lot of potential in non-mining exports, especially in agriculture and also tourism. And import, our key import product is gasoline, because we don't have a gasoline manufacturing in the country, and so mostly import from Russia. As you know, we are just next to China, so some global brands cannot do operation without China, so they don't have a luxury to do business without China. But we are sitting next to China, so we have a lot of opportunities in terms of the export. So as I mentioned, the mining and agriculture is a potential export market, and also tourism. Also the related infrastructure, financial infrastructure and energy and the free zone, those kind of infrastructure investment opportunities, we have a lot. So investment trade agency, Dulgun will explain more in detail later. So I will be short. Plus, this government initiated, set up the new agency, Investment in Trade Agencies Center, to help the foreign investors. So you can find more information from those QR codes. Let me pass the presentation to Duuren, CEO, Mongolian National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, and I'd like to continue the presentation from our president. This part, I'd like to focus more on a special program which we introduced this year in the beginning of 2024. In order to boost the economy, the government of Mongolia introduced new recovery policy, which focuses on 6 main areas that enhance development of the country. So in alignment with the government policy, the National Chamber of Commerce, we introduced 7th program, which is called, officially we call it Business Recovery Program, National Program. Why this became important is because our president's presentation, it was mentioned that our Mongolian economy is highly dependent on the mining export. So the average household income is not sufficient enough to cover the daily costs. So in order to increase within shortest possible time the GDP of Mongolia, we need to focus on development of light industry, food processing, which is non-mining export. But one factor affecting the development of light industry and processing and non-mining export is that labor market supply has been drastically decreasing in recent years because of the birth situation in the beginning of 2000. As you can see, high demand in the labor, but the supply is limited. As you can see, average family income is less than average cost by $70 per month. So you can see that it's according to the central bank research presented in December 2023. Because Mongolia is a young generation, 60% of our total population is population under 35 years old, and the involvement of private sector in business is not sufficient. That's why we introduced this business recovery plan, which will include training and consulting services, research and surveys, exhibition and trade fairs. Digitalization is becoming very important in the business environment now. Business meetings and forums, and knowledge sharing and books and handbooks. One of the first projects we just started a month ago, short-term business training for 10,000 youth throughout the country at the national level in the 2024. So out of these 10,000 students, we will select 1,000 students to give them opportunity to participate in the international business training and travel. So out of this 1,000, we will select 100 youth to help them create his own business. So the 100 small and medium enterprise will be fostered in together with the government's small and medium enterprises agency. So the international training programs, we approached Indian embassy, Malaysian embassy, and the Singaporean chamber, also the Chinese CCPIT, in order to collaborate on the international training projects. So these are the pictures of the first 300 students which were at the chamber. So this is a 2-week business training for youth who has never studied in the business area or planning to start its own business or started already a small enterprise by individual enterprises. So after that, autumn this year, we will introduce an equipment, 500 tools and equipment expo in UBCT, so that we will give example of small and medium equipment, which could be used for small and medium enterprises, so that the youth who received our trainings can get the idea of businesses they want to start or get engaged in. In Mongolia, we have very limited availability of real market information about certain markets. So we're implementing 100 most popular business sector survey information will be available openly to all the 10,000 students which received the training. So this is basically what I wanted to share with you, what we are doing as part of our business recovery program. Thank you.
Now we proceed with Mr. Dulgun Barsuren, officer at the Investment and Trade Office Agency in Mongolia. And at the same time, I would like to remind the audience to issue their questions in the Q&A box, and we'll be discussing those questions at the end of the webinar. So now, Mr. Dulgun, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Today I will introduce you briefly to investing climate in Mongolia. First, I will talk about investing climate, and then second, I will talk about investment opportunity areas. As shown in this statistics data, for the past 30 years, foreign direct investment has totaled up to $41 billion in Mongolia. 70% of the FDI were invested in mining sector. Looking at this inflation rate, we have a really high inflation rate, and since 2022, it has been actively decreasing to 7.2%. On this slide, you can see top 5 countries that have invested mostly in Mongolia. All of this FDI, 73% is in mining sector and 11% is in the wholesale and retail trade sector. Regarding the investing climate, we have signed international investing frameworks such as Seoul Convention on the establishment of MNCCI and Washington Convention on the settlement of investing disputes. We also have established double taxation treaties with 26 countries and investment protection and promotion agreements with 43 countries. Regarding the credit ratings, as of June of 2023, we have received BB- and B1 and B+ ratings, such as shown as positive ratings. According to the World Bank Doing Business report, Mongolia is considered a country with a lower than average tax rate. We've listed as 13th place out of 211 countries. And for additional information, our VAT is considered with the as the lowest one of the 16 countries, and the amount is 125%. The investment law has been approved in 2013 and has been actively implemented since then. Okay, there are two types of tax preferences. There are non-tax and tax preference. So we provide also tax certificates regarding where and in which country and in which sector the investment is invested. Foreign companies in Mongolia can get up to tax incentives under the investment law. The requirement is a minimum investment of $100,000, which is also considering the technology and work HRs invested to country. As Mr. Enkhtuvshin has already said, these 5 sectors are the primary sectors that we strive to get investment opportunities. Briefly introducing these sectors, one of them is renewable energy. As you can see on this slide, we have shown the renewable energy capacity of Mongolia. Government of Mongolia is aiming to establish a green financing system to achieve net zero carbon emission. We have set the objectives to achieve within the next 2 years in the field of tourism. In these objectives, we have set various activities to starting from Go Mongolia and so on to achieve our objective. You can see the listed investment opportunities in free trade zones. On this slide, we can see that there is a list of proven reserves in Mongolia. In addition, I would like also to mention that you can see on the website the list of projects and programs that will be implemented by the government of Mongolia. Also, you can get the additional information on these projects by contacting to our trade and investment agency. We are sure that your investment will be directed to the necessary activities and projects.
Now we are entering into the Q&A section. As you can see, we have a few questions in the Q&A box and some other questions that we have received. I think I will first start with one of the questions in the Q&A box that seems very interesting. The question says that, may I know some overview of the Mongolian agricultural situation? And I think this is very, very interesting because given Mongolia large, geographical landscape, we know that about 70% of the investment is in minerals. And the question is, how is the situation now in the agricultural sector? So,
as I said, we are sandwiched in between China and Russia. So Russia has the biggest land in the world, and also China has the biggest population in the world, but recently overtook India, but still in the leading. But Mongolia is like leading in the world, 1 or 2 per capita, land per capita. So which means some people said that 3-1-1-1-1. Land size #1, population size #1, and in between land per capita #1 in the world. So which means we have a lot of space. So our agriculture, livestock is how can I say? It's like very traditional way. So we have the people live in a nomadic way. So they have animals, livestock, and the herders live as like a nomadic way. So our agriculture is more like green, or it's not like a farmer, like farmers in other country. So and also it's kind of free range all around the country. So livestock and cattle, sheep, and they can move all year round. So they don't usually stay in one place. So all year round they move around the country. So which gives us and also in the climate-wise, we have a very harsh weather. So sometimes from -40 to +40. So which means in this harsh weather, some very good for some the agriculture products, like a cashmere. So we have this kind of harsh weather. So Kashmir quality, goat can produce very high quality, long and thin Kashmir. So that's why the Mongolia is a largest supplier of the raw Kashmir. And also not only the Kashmir, the medical plants. So the harsh weather gives very good quality. So we have also a high chance on this. And one of the rising non-mining the export product is like meat. So although there is some lot of the restrictions and quarantine issues, but the Mongolian meat is like a very eco, no chemicals, and it's the all year round they move. They choose what they want to eat. So they don't eat like what they feed. So they go and find what they like. So Kashmir is a key, and also meat products. So we are still working on this quarantine, the standards and issues. So recently, the president of Mongolia visited the Vietnam and the Cambodia. So Laos. We are exploring the opportunity to export Mongolian meat to the Southeast Asian markets. So still we're working on this kind of how we can solve the quarantine issue. And also on top of cattle and sheep, we also export the horse meat. So in some countries, horse meat is very it's expensive and good high energy product. So, but in horse meat, the quarantine regime is different from this those cattle and sheep. So China is accepting those kind of product, and there is. As Dulgun mentioned, we are also aiming to explore opportunities in the free trade zones. So we are opening up several free trade zones nearby China. So we can have some kind of semi-processed products, agricultural products near the China. So from China, so a lot of the logistics can go to the Southeast Asian, other Asian markets. And also China is a big potential market. So, and for those agricultural products, our companies and small and medium companies, they need some investments and the corporation, so market. So we are open to discuss, and also we are open we would happy to connect Mongolian companies if you have an interest to export to China or to the Asian markets.
Okay, thank you for the answer. We have another question, and this one would be to MNCCI's CEO, Mr. Duuren, because this is about human resource development. This is related to the seminar of the 100 students that you are selecting to be trained in foreign trade. And the question is, after the seminar abroad for these 100 students, is there a requirement to engage small and micro business? And also whether there's a national service that, because they are sponsored by the government, do they have to serve certain years to service the government or the government programs?
Thank you for the question. No, because we want to teach youth how to do business, because entrepreneurship, we want to develop an entrepreneurship mentality. So this is will be partly funded and collaborated with by the government, because all the revenues are collected by the government. I mean, most of the mining product belong to the people of Mongolia, but the revenue is collected by the government. So it means the government must spend some money to teach people how to do a business. So there is no requirement, there will be no requirement for 10,000 students or 100 students who will be selected as example to start their own business. There's no requirement, there will not be any requirement to pay anything to the government back.
We would like, as a Chamber of Commerce, we would like to encourage the entrepreneurship, especially in the young generation, youngsters. So at the moment, as you see from the previous presentation, we have a short of a human resource. So a lot of the young generation, they want to go abroad and study abroad. So we want them give some kind of information or a hope. So you can do business in the country. So instead of studying, there are a lot of opportunities in the country. So for that, they need to some kind of the general understanding of how business and the supply value chain works and how system works. So if we give them a basic understanding, so we think we can hold some the youth in the country to do business.
Yes, yes. Normally these programs will succeed in certain parts because some of the youth will remain in the country. That's true. Yes. Now, I have a third question here, and this one would be for Dulgun, and this is related to banking. And in fact, we have a lot of bankers in the audience today. And here the question is, can you please tell us about your securities market and the regulations?
Mongolia's securities market has been regulated since 2022 by the law of securities market. Before, there was just the regulations. After implementing this securities market law, there has been active activities to stop the terrorism money laundering from the government of Mongolia. And in this activity, our banks and private sectors has been getting a lot of positive response. The body that regulates the Mongolian securities is the Mongolian Financial Regulation Committee. So you can visit their website and their English website and get the detailed information. The website is frc.mn. Also on their website, you can also get the annually or monthly report of the Mongolian securities. Detailed information of the securities market.
Now we'd like to go back a little bit to the mineral sector. We know that Mongolia is a powerhouse in terms of gold, coal, copper. All of these materials right now are gaining in price. We can see that situation recently. But again, we have the counter side of this development, which is the landscape. And there's a question here that talks about the extraction of minerals, whether Mongolia has some plan or some regulation or some mitigation programs for this kind of projects, which in fact requires a large area.
We have a lot of resource, but a lot of untapped resource, and the mining we're using is a very small percentage. So we have at the moment two big projects, like one copper mine and the newly opened copper mine together with the Rio Tinto. The coking coal mine, it's mainly one deposit. So there are three main mining companies doing operation in this one coking coal deposit. So although we have a lot of deposits, so we open not that many, and but we are using one by one kind of, and so we agriculture, the herders, we have to say before the open mining, they also need to do some kind of social survey. So how many the families can be affected because of this mining operation, and not only mining, it's also transportation road and trucking operation may affect not only herders and the wild animals also. So before the open the mining, there is a requirement to do some kind of the social survey, and also they need to have a consensus with the local residents and the herders. So that is the requirement before the mining operation. And also when they close the mining, there is the environmental requirements to refill the land and to make it green, or this kind of the environmental requirements we have. So some the gold mines, so is already, I have to say, when they close the mine, so they make it like a plants and the plantation, so return it as it like before. So there is a lot of restoration requirements. The Mongolian people is a very, how to say, we trying to live together with nature, not like dictating nature. So this is kind of the mentality kind of in our blood. So if there is something, say, too much the environmental protection kind of issue, so Mongolians very, to say, even herders, if herd one family, one herders, so their voice can be very loud. So so in that sense, the environmental issue is, have to say, because as I said, the Mongolian livestock, they we can keep this kind of method, the nomadic livestock, because of we have a land. So otherwise, if we the land, the arable land size is getting smaller, so they cannot, have to say, continue sustainably. So that's why it's kind of living together, mixing together. So, and the size-wise, mining size is very small.
I have a question for Mr. Duuren. Could you elaborate on any partnership or collaboration that MNCCI has forged to implement the business recovery program effectively?
Of course, as we said, the main goal, strategic goal for MNCCI is to increase the GDP and diversify the economy, not only dependent on the mining. So non-mining export is very important strategic area of our concern. And I can see a question also here about the agricultural possible products of Mongolia. I will answer also that. The main problem now is productivity in agricultural sector is very low. On the contrary, productivity per person in the mining sector is very high, around $30,000 per year. But the productivity per person in agricultural sector, it's very low, about $2,000 per year. So it means there is no processing. So we export only raw materials. So number one is cashmere, and number two is meat, and the third biggest export, non-mining export, is pine nuts. Pine nuts, it's a very specific, expensive nuts which is grown in Siberia area and northern in Korea and northern Chinese area in Mongolia. So these are three main products, but we export them unprocessed as a raw material. So this is creates problem of revenue generation, because the agriculture sector is the biggest employment sector of Mongolia. So we need to increase the revenue. That's why, but the very weird paradox in Mongolia is that we don't have export financing system. So that's why we are working with the government to introduce export financing and facilitation system, so that people start processing the food in order to increase the value added value to our export. So these are the main one of the main goals of our business recovery program. I mean the export facilitation and export financing.
This point is quite interesting because I know about your trade and development bank, but you're saying that they don't have this trade facilitation program. So I think that's something that the banking system have to work on to help the development of the area. Now we are running out of time, but I have one last question. I don't know which one would like to take this one. This question says, how does MNCCI collaborate with the government bodies and international partners to foster a productive and favorable business climate in Mongolia?
Let me address this question. So government bodies, so we do policy advocacy through a lot of the government structures, like the committees and the national standing committees and some the councils. So usually the policymakers invite the Chamber of Commerce as a representative of the private sector. So we do our policy advocacy through this kind of structures, and also we implement some of our industry-specific business NGOs. They implement some services on behalf of the government, like the standardization, and also we at the moment we're going to implement the professional vocational training system in the country. So in the past, the government was in charge of this human resource, and the Ministry of Education, Ministry of the Labor and Social Security, they were mainly in charge of the human resource supply. So, but the main the buyer is a private sector. So we think we should rely on ourselves. So we trying to install this system in the country. So for this, we working with some of the foreign Chamber of Commerce, like a German and Austria, and some European and also Korean Chamber of Commerce. So we trying to learn and install this vocational training in the country. So that's one kind of area we working with the government and international partners. And also we have several the international banks doing operation in the country. So EBRD, for example, so they're more active on the private sector. So we trying to update long-term the sectoral policy, economic sector policy, and the long-term roadmap. So together with like international banks like EBRD. So at the moment we are working with the working to update energy sector policy and the energy sector long-term roadmap together with EBRD. So after through this project, so we can update and we can have we can give the investors more confidence in the long run. So EBRD has a lot of experience in other countries like Uzbekistan. After they update the energy sector policy, they attracted billions of investment in the renewable energy sector. So as Mr. Dulgun mentioned, we have a huge potential in the renewable energy, as the governments and the developed country governments, they have to say targeting some emission targets, carbon targets. So some countries, developed countries, some big companies visiting Mongolia to buy carbon credit. So because at the moment, a lot of the big renewable projects under discussion and in the project level. So those projects, we have also huge potential to sell the carbon credit to other countries, because our industry at the moment is not that big.
And I'd like to add that we are expecting we have a chamber law, and it was adopted in 30 years ago, 1995. So this year, the government and the parliament is now, next month, it's going to be discussed the amendment to the chamber law, which will give us opportunity to expand our activities and also redefine our role in the adoption of new laws, our interaction with more clearly defined interaction with the government. So we expect that after the amendment of this law will bring a very positive result in overall business environment of Mongolia.
We are ending this webinar with very positive comments about the new role that the chamber, the MNCCI, will play in the business environment of Mongolia. We are glad to hear that the new law will be implemented. Now, to conclude, I would say that the presentations were full of data and very good statistics. We will share the documents with the participants of this webinar. And we hope that future webinars that CACCI will present featuring other countries will gather such an active audience. On behalf of CACCI, I would like to thank you for your presentations and hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.